Hey everybody, this is Dave Short, and you are here in my living room in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm going to walk you through today a program that I developed in PBL 2 years ago. It's called the PBL Advantage. And since we've put this into place at my local chapter, our numbers have gone through the roof. We now have over 200 members in our chapter each of the past 2 years. And the local chapters that I've personally mentored are seeing their chapters double and triple in size. And this is not just a numbers game. These are lives being changed. These are students who are actively engaged in PBL and they believe in the promise of what PBL says it is here to deliver, which is to get you the attention that you deserve. I love stories. I always have. It's something that has driven me as a person to be a creative, to be somebody who wants to tell a story and wants to share a vision. And that's one of the reasons why I created the PBL Pro Tip series, because I believe that the members want to get valuable face time with their leaders. People like Katie Clark, my friend, I love her. She is amazing. If you've never met Katie, you don't understand. But if you have, you definitely do know what I'm talking about. She loves FBLA-PBL. She loves it. And she was determined to be a leader. She pushed and pushed through obstacle after obstacle until she became a national officer. And she was one of the most successful national officers in my book that we've ever had. Or people like Brian Polson, who's been a national officer for several years in a row. The guy solves problems. And you need to know that. And you need to hear his story. And that's why I created Pro Tips. But now it's time to turn the page. It's time to turn PBL Pro Tips into something that's more than just telling a story, but it's telling you how to create your own story, how to craft your own successes. And that's what this video is attempting to do. I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step ways to implement the PBL Advantage recruiting system. And I tell you, the people that have caught on to this vision and have worked this program out have seen people's worlds totally change. One particular story that I'm thinking of is a girl who came to me, and she was so worried. You know, she's 30 years old. She's an adult student just like I am. She came to me and she said, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to move in with my parents. I'm 30 years old. I've been in PBL for 3 years and I've won national trophies 2 of those years. And I've got my degree. I'm getting my degree. I've done everything that I know to do, and I still can't find a job. I still can't find a way to make enough money to pay all my bills. And I'll tell you, that is something that breaks my heart. To know that PBL has the potential and has the ability to make sure that that never happens. Somebody who's a 3-year veteran of PBL shouldn't be wondering if she's going to be able to get a good job. She should be screening calls from the nation's top employers. And that goes to another program that I'm very, very passionate about right now, and that's called the Higher PBL program. And I'm going to create another video to walk you through that program as well. But before we can get to the Higher PBL program, we have to know the fundamentals of getting people passionate about PBL and bringing them back to the table with their ideas. There are so many sharp people in PBL who have ideas that they share with me every single day, and my mind just blows wide open with the potential. There's this wonderful, wonderful woman in Kansas, and her name is Lizzie, and her chapter got together and they made a determination that their chapter was going to be self-sufficient, that they were going to run a business inside of their chapter to pay for all of their expenses, for all of their travel costs, for all of their meetings and all of their awesome trips to NLC and to state. And she's got a wonderful business model of, of storage during the summertime. Students at the campus can go to her chapter's business and they can store items, individual items, if they want, over the summer so they don't have to pack them up and take them home. And that business is taking off quite well. And that's an amazing idea. And I get so excited when I hear things like that. So we're going to take the PBL Pro Tip series in a whole new direction this year. And we're going to make it about learning how to do these things. So let's go ahead and dive right into what the PBL Advantage is. Well, first of all, let me talk about what it is not. The PBL Advantage is not this magical system. There's really no magic to it. In fact, when I break this down, you're going to be like, that's it? That's all it is? I mean, that's not even... Yeah, I mean, of course we're supposed to be doing those things. But sadly enough, not a lot of people are. And if you could just focus on doing these 5 things, or focus on these 5 areas concerning PBL, people are just going to flock to your chapter. And when I say to people that recruiting 200 people was actually simple, it was kind of easy, they all look at me in that same strange way. They're like, what? What are you talking about? The average PBL chapter is 20 people. Yours is 10 times that. Of course, I know that. But again, it's all in the program. So we're going to walk you through this program. I want you to get pen and paper down. Get ready to take some notes. So for me to be able to talk about the PBL Advantage program, I have to tell you about how I was recruited, because it is in that experience that I learned the PBL Advantage. My local chapter at TCC Metro was already doing most of these things unintentionally. I mean, I guess they were doing them intentionally, but they weren't doing them as part of a program. There was things that they were doing that just made recruiting me specifically very successful endeavor for them. Because I'm actually one of those type of guys that's very selective about what I do with my time, because everybody wants me to be a part of their group or be a part of their organization, and I just don't have the time. I want to be invested in things that I believe in. I want to be invested in things that are fun and exciting. And the way that I was recruited into PBL showcased PBL in that light, and that's what got me going. It was the spring of 2012, and I was recruited into PBL without ever talking to a student or a member of PBL. Not one single time. I already wanted to be a part of PBL before I talked to one single student. And here's how that happened. I'm about to leave one of my website design classes at TCC Metro, and my professor comes to me, and it was her who actually recruited me into PBL. She said, the school has an organization called PBL. It stands for Phi Beta Lambda. It's Professional Business Leaders. It's the College Division of Future Business Leaders of America. Well, I had heard of that because of high school, but that was 10 years ago. And, it was hard for me to even remember what FBLA was, to be honest with you. But she said to me, you're my best design student. I think that you owe it to yourself and you owe it to this school to compete on our team at a state competition, which I know that you will walk away with a championship in easily. And then we'll help you get to a national championship competition where I think, again, you can walk away with the top prize. And if you do, it's $1,000 in your pocket, it's a trophy on your wall, but more importantly, it's validation that you actually are learning the skills and you possess the skills necessary to make the jump into your career. And as an adult student, that was music to my ears. And you can call me egotistical or narcissistic, which a lot of people already do. But that was such an honor for me to hear, for me to have somebody that I trust and I look up to come to me and say, you're the best. We want you. You need to be a part of this. Well, I was hooked. I didn't even know who was in PBL. I didn't know who our chapter president was. I didn't care. I didn't care anything about it. I was already sold. And when I tell you about the PBL Advantage program and you look back on the story that I just told you about how I was recruited, you're going to see that a lot of that stuff was already there. And it's the right way to recruit people. All right, so let's talk about the foundation of what the PBL Advantage is. The PBL Advantage Foundation is taking all of the wonderful things that PBL is and narrowing them down into 5 specific areas of focus. And you're going to try your best to focus on these 5 things only. Now, there's a lot of things that PBL definitely has going for it. Leadership training, community service, our tie-in to the March of Dimes, all of the wonderful national programs that we have, our national and state competitions, of course, but that can get overwhelming if you're sitting there and trying to convey all of that depth to somebody when you're trying to recruit them. And so it's better for you to focus on one or a combination of these 5 things when you're recruiting somebody. And that's going to make you more effective as a recruiter. So number 1, the PBL Advantage is that you get to compete against the very best student leaders in the country. That was one of the big things that sold me on PBL. Before I knew a single person inside of this organization, I was already hooked because I knew that I was going to be competing in a real world scenario, head to head with another person who was just like me, trying to prove that they knew their stuff. And not just a basic website design person, but somebody who is wanting this to be their career. So I was hooked. That was the way I got recruited, right there. And that's one of the most effective ways for you to recruit people for your chapter, is by singling out the fact that they get to compete and prove they know their stuff. People are hungry for the opportunity to validate themselves and find a way for them to stand out in the crowd. The job market is so competitive. A Forbes survey recently said that 43% of college students are either underemployed or they're not employed at all. And that's what makes PBL so great, is that it helps you stand out from that. It helps you avoid that statistic because it allows you to prove that you are not just another resume in the stack. Number 2, PBL's advantage is that you get to compete and be judged by the most qualified professional in the industry. Now, this is something that ties into another program that I'm really passionate about right now called Hire PBL. And it's my program to make this particular advantage even bigger, an even better opportunity. And I would love to go into that, but I don't want this video to be 7 hours long. So there will be a video on the Hire PBL program. I encourage you to watch that when it is available. But what makes this so good is that even if somebody feels like, okay, I'm in a small state and I'm not going to be going against 20 people at my state competition, or I may not even be going against 20 people at a national competition in this particular event. What it does is it still shores up the same things that that first advantage shores up by saying that the person that is judging your event is somebody who does that for a living. And if you're a state officer or a state advisor watching this and you just go out and do a cattle call for judges and you just tried your best to find anybody, whether it's somebody's mom or somebody's like uncle or something, and you just are trying your best to fill seats, you're doing a disservice to your members, because your members need to know that the people who are judging them can validate that they know their stuff. It's that simple. For PBL to deliver on its promise, people need to know that when they're competing and they're face to face with a judge, that person on the other side of the table knows whether or not they're bluffing. If you're doing website design, you should be on the other side of the table from somebody who does that for a living. If you're doing accounting principles, you need to be on the other side of the table from somebody who works as an accountant or an accountant assistant or something that's relevant to that event. And again, this ties into the higher PBL program, and I'm trying my best to not just overflow the two and mesh them together, but they go hand in hand. You have to get out there and you have to find sponsors to judge these events. You have to. They need to be professionals, or this is all a facade. I want to know that when I'm competing in a competition, that I'm winning something that's going to impress the people outside of that conference room, outside of that awards ceremony. I want to know that when I put PBL, that I won a PBL award on my resume, that it is a game changer and not just another fancy one-liner. Okay, so sorry to be harsh there, but that's really important. It's something that I sell to people over and over and over again, and it has to be true or we're all lying to each other. Number 3, and this one is huge. You have an advantage in PBL by being able to build a strong professional portfolio. This is something that PBL 100% delivers on. Through the national program called CMAP, we definitely give you an opportunity to showcase that you have really excellent business skills. And that program challenges you to go out and learn business skills that I think pretty much anyone going into business for themselves or for an employer need to know. Like how to write a press release, a real press release that gets press attention, a real media release, how to write an article, how to do copywriting as a basic. I mean, that's a basic thing that every business person needs to have. How to do business-to-business sales by going and recruiting sponsors. How to write a resume, get a good cover letter together. How to put together a strong package for your employer to read before your arrival to the job interview. How to handle yourself in a job interview. How to answer those questions. It requests and it requires you to go out there, and even if you have to do a mock interview, you do a mock interview to practice these simple things of just being able to articulate yourself in a situation. And I think that CMAP program really is great at preparing you for those things. Now again, the higher PBL program is going to work on making better advantages there. And I believe that there are a lot of great ways that we could be getting our members recognition through that program in a better way. But it still is a great program to be a part of, because if you don't have those skills, they're definitely something that you need to learn, like how to recruit people. That's why you're here right now. So definitely the CMAP program is a great place, and I would encourage you to be documenting things outside of the CMAP program into your own portfolio as you're doing those items, because you want to have something that you can take away and hand to an employer or a potential employer and say, see, here are all the things that I'm doing inside of PBL that have taught me how to be a good employee for you and have taught me to be a leader in business. And while we're talking about sponsors, this is a great program to show your sponsors, to say, look, all of our members are encouraged to participate in this CMAP program. And look at all these things that the CMAP program is encouraging our members, encouraging our members to learn. And, you know, when a company knows that the majority of your members are being taught these things that should seem basic, but in today's world definitely are not. They're more attracted to your chapter. They're more attracted to becoming real partners and mentors to your student leaders. And that's a great thing. It's a win-win situation. So we're only on number 3, and we're already talking about some amazing advantages. Number 4, and this is the biggest one. The biggest PBL advantage for me is that you get to be connected to the nation's top employers. PBL at a national level has really only scratched the surface on this. And again, the higher PBL program really seeks to make this better, and we're taking a state-by-state approach on this, because doing it at a national level at this point in the process is just going to be too daunting to do. But the fact that when you go to a national leadership conference in PBL, the fact that there are sponsors there presenting these awards from big game-changing companies like Microsoft and Geico and the AICPA and Visa, these are huge players in the world's economy, and they are there invested in FBLA and invested in PBL. And that is an advantage that a lot of other organizations don't even begin to offer. We're only just beginning, and it's going to get better. But that is a fantastic opportunity. And locally, this is where this PBL Advantage program really starts to unfold. And we're going to talk about how to implement these 5 things, these 5 areas of focus. And this is going to be the first one that you're going to want to work on. Number 5 is that you get to join an all-star group of leaders working in a lifetime network. It's a lifetime organization. It's amazing. It's so awesome. And you know what? This is where you get to talk about all of that other stuff in PBL that doesn't have to do with getting settled into business and getting settled into your dream career. It's where you get to talk about March of Dimes. It's where you get to talk about the fact that we are saving babies' lives. It's where you get to talk about the fact that you get to be in the room with people teaching really amazing leadership skills in our workshops. It's where you get to talk about the fact that some of the community service projects that have been done in PBL have literally changed thousands of people's lives. We've raised more money for the March of Dimes than any other organization. I mean, those are things that are icing on the cake. And it's an area of focus that you need to be working on when you are recruiting people. But there's a reason why it's number 5. And the reason why is because there's a lot of other organizations who do that. You can be a part of PTK and get leadership training through the nose. You could be a part of any other organization like student government and learn leadership training and learn how to be a part of community service and a good steward and a good civic contribution to your city. But the reason why PBL stands out is because you get to compete against the best, you get to be judged by the best, you get to build a trail, a paper trail for your skill set, and you get to connect with the best employers in the country. Now, that's the 5. That's it. I could stop right here. I could stop right now, but then you would be screaming at me because you don't know what to do next. Just because you know how, just because you know these areas of focus doesn't mean that you know what to do, right? So let's go into that just a little bit. I'm going to try my best to keep this video short, but the first thing you got to focus on is number 4, because it is the peak. It's the pinnacle of why we're all here. We're in college so we can go into the career of our dreams. What better way to get into that career than having an advantage by attracting the company that you want to work for? or attracting the company that you want to mentor you. At the very least, if you're one of those entrepreneur types who envisions yourself working by yourself on your own project, you still want to have somebody who's in business, who is successful, speaking into your life. So on a local level, you want to get into every meeting that you possibly can with key businesses in your city. Now, the specifics of this, I'm actually going to skip over because I'm going to be hosting a special Google Hangout Q&A about this video where you can bring your questions and we'll go back and forth and we'll discuss the specifics of this. I feel like doing that in a video like this is a disservice to you because I won't be able to touch on the specific ways that you need to handle this in your unique circumstances. So be watching on Facebook. I will be posting when that Google Hangout is going to come around. Now, so many awesome things that we've already discussed. But number one is getting those companies on board because that's how you deliver on your promise. Now, when it's time to go connect with students, how are you going to do that? I've heard every idea under the sun. Well, you need to have a table at your membership drive at your campus. You need to have a booth at your rush rally, whatever it is. You need to throw the football around in the courtyard so you can draw attention to yourself as a group. All of those ways are good ways to get some name recognition for PBL, but I'm going to go out on a limb and be the guy who's kind of a jerk here and say that those areas aren't really effective in getting the top student leaders involved in your organization. And I know that that's hard for me to say as much as it is probably hard for a lot of people to hear, and I'm going to get some serious hate mail. But if you want to get the best, then what you need to do is you need to not recruit a single student on your campus. That's right, I said it. Do not try to recruit anybody on your campus. Instead, you need to be recruiting professors, administrators, adjuncts. You need to get advisors behind you. And you need more than one. You need more than two. At TCC Metro, we have 20. There are 20 professors on our campus who are evangelists for PBL. And they love PBL for the same reasons that I just told you. Those 5 reasons, they know that there's so many open doors for people who are a part of PBL. And they are looking at 100 students every single day, 200, 300. If you're at a big school, 500 to 600 students a day. And they have the opportunity to find the students who are really engaged in school, who are engaged as student leaders, who are really doing everything they can to get the best out of their experience. And they're the ones who know how to get the students to you. Just if you look back at my experience and how I got into PBL, I'm going to be honest with you. I would not have joined PBL if a student came to me and pitched this idea to me. It sounds too lofty. It sounds too, it just sounds like it's too ambitious. Like there's not a way that an organization could deliver on this. And so when a student is just kind of vomiting all of this all over you in the hallway trying to recruit you, it's ineffective. But when your professor says, I stand up for PBL, I'm going to defend their reputation. I believe, I've seen it with my own eyes. Students have graduated with PBL on their resume, and they've gone into amazing careers. Students have gone to National Leadership Conference, and they've won trophies, and they've won big cash prizes, and they've been face-to-face with the best employers in the country, and now they're working for organizations like Ernst & Young. They're working for organizations like the AICPA. They're working for organizations like Coca-Cola and Geico and Microsoft. When my professor came to me and said that I had that potential, I didn't need to talk to anybody else. And you know what's really cool is, as the VP of membership, that first year that I started putting this out there and started working with those professors, you know what happened? A lot of them were like, man, I really believe in this. This is a really great thing. You have all of these great companies on board. I'm a little timid in, regurgitating this information and reciting this information. Why don't you come over to my class and speak to my class for 5 minutes? Just spend 5 minutes of your time coming over and just giving this same little speech to my class. You know what? I talked to almost every single class in the business department that year. It was crazy. I talked to a bunch of classes. And that's all of the recruiting I did. I know, it seems weird. It seems crazy. But what happens is these professors believe in the PBL Advantage so much that they start being your evangelist. They have a better and further reach than you do. Even if you're the big man on campus, like I am, I can't reach 300 students for PBL in one campus and then get them all through the program and signed up. But your professors are the people that your students look up to. They're the people that student leaders are plugged into. They're already mentors and tutors and people who pour into the lives of the people you're trying to recruit. So why would you not instead want to recruit those people? And you know what? If you could recruit an actual administrator at your school, like a VP, then that opens doors like you would not believe. At TCC Metro, actually one of our vice presidents is a PBL member. She loves PBL. She has seen the things that have happened in the lives of the people who have been changed by PBL. And so when it's time for us to go to a meeting and we're short on cash, she goes looking for it for us. That's an amazing advantage. There are so many people out there who have talked to me and have asked me, how do you guys afford to send this many people to your school, from your school to these conferences? And I'll be honest, it's because we recruited the administrators and we recruited the teachers and the professors, and they get us the students. And so when I say we got to 300 members and it was pretty easy, well, it was easy for me because all I had to do was get the fire started. These professors worked their tail off. Those advisors, those 20 advisors that we have, they are always trying to find a way to push another student leader into that meeting. And I have a feeling that your meetings need to be fun, they need to be engaging. And I have a philosophy that if you get somebody to one of our PBL meetings, they're going to be hooked. Because we're going to be sharing this opportunity with them at that meeting. They're going to get face to face with one of our sponsors and our partners, and they're going to see that it's real. They're going to see somebody from, Williams Technology. They're going to see somebody from the Tulsa Shock come to the meeting and actually be actively looking for interns and people to fill jobs. And even if it is on a temporary basis, or even if it is on an intern basis, you get one person in your chapter a job through PBL, you can take down the flyers because they're not going to be necessary anymore. I'm just honest. That's just how it is. I know it's a little bold, and I know that it's kind of hard to believe for some people, but that is the PBL advantage. The fact that there are over half of the college students out there today terrified that they're doing all this work for nothing, that they're going to get out in the real world and they're not going to have a job waiting for them. It's the fear that, a generation ago, it wasn't like this. You went to college, you were a good student, you were a student leader, and you kind of had a job waiting for you. There was a house waiting for you. There was a picket fence and a dog and 2.5 kids. That's just not the case anymore. And the best student leaders, the ones who are engaged, the ones that you want to be a part of your chapter, the ones who will actually want to be a part of your chapter are doing absolutely everything in their power to not be a part of the statistic. So you have to get in their face and you have to get their attention. And you can't do that as a student without a lot of charisma. But your professors can. And that's how we do things. That's how the PBL Advantage works. Mitchell, Ober, and Von Goolsby are saints. At TCC Metro, they have been our lead advisors for the past 7 years. And the lives that they have changed as individuals and as advisors is astonishing. I mean, we owe almost all of our success to those two people. And if you expanded it to the 20 advisors, we all owe our success to these adults who look at PBL and say, man, if I had that same advantage when I was in school, or if I had that same opportunity when I was a student, and they start to dream for their students and for the people that they care about in their classes. That's how this works. Now, man, I'm getting all teary-eyed and all. Anyways, I just want to say this is the PBL Advantage. Those 5 areas of focus are what you need to be focusing on for your recruitment. Your first step is to go out there and secure some corporate sponsors, some people in your city who need your members to be their new employees. The second step is to go out there and show your professors that you have that connection with those sponsors and that there is a promise that if your students will join PBL, they'll be connected with these professional companies in our city. So that's the PBL Advantage. We're going to have a special Google Hangout, and I'm going to announce the time of that Google Hangout for you in the next days or weeks to come. It'll be before the start of September, for sure. And we're just going to have as long of a session as we need for. I'm going to field as many questions as I possibly can and help you adapt this model to your specific circumstances. First of all, approaching companies in your city can be very intimidating. So there are certain places that you can go to get introduced to them without it being so intimidating. Second of all, there are resources that my Oklahoma State PBL team is developing for you, which are not ready yet, which is why I'm prolonging the Q&A, that will help you get to these companies because you need to get their attention or you're not delivering on your promise. Just like I said, you need to have them there to judge your events. You need to have them there promising some light at the end of the tunnel. For all of this hard work and all of this investment, you better be walking away with something. And it better be more than a plexiglass trophy, even though they're super cool on a mantle. All right, so I like to ramble, and I feel like I'm doing that, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. If you have questions before the Q&A starts and you just are dying for me to answer them and you just can't wait, go ahead and email me. My email address is daveshort@outlook.com, and I'll do everything that I can to field those questions and possibly come back around and answer those questions on the Q&A for everybody to hear. So again, until next time, this is Dave Short. You're here in my living room. I hope it's been informative. I hope it has added something to your life. I hope that it has encouraged you to know that you can recruit a 100-member chapter, that you can recruit a 200-member chapter. You just have to work. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time.